Welcome to our webinar, Why Upgrade Dynamics AX 2012 to Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations Enterprise Edition, presented by sa.global. Just a little bit about us. sa.global is a leading Dynamics 365 partner, providing services in all areas of business solution deployment, net new implementations, upgrades, support and managed services, and a full range of services designed specifically for partners and ISVs. This webinar is the first in a three-part series that we're having on upgrading from AX 2012 to Dynamics 365. A few quick intros. I'm Jen Weismore, and I've been working in delivery and sales roles in the Dynamics AX, now Dynamics 365 channel for almost 20 years. Joining me are Joel and Paramish. They both have long tenures as well in the Dynamics community. Joel is Director of our Product Development and a Microsoft MVP. Paramish is our Program Director for our Partner and ISV Services. So we'll be all tag teaming the presentation today. Quick things on agenda. We'll just talk quickly about the next series of webinars that we have, the other ones in this series. Quickly on the availability of the tools and what's out there right now for the upgrade work. We'll focus a little bit more on that in the third webinar as well. And we'll spend most of our time on why upgrade. Now, there's a lot of information already out in the market and the channel on this topic, but we felt it could be helpful to summarize some of these key points that we have been communicating to our clients, just package it up for you in a little bit tighter presentation for you to either reuse or just leverage and develop for your needs around this area. Okay, so in this series we will have three webinars. First one's today, kind of why upgrade. Next week, next Thursday, 12:30 Eastern, we will look at how do you get your hand around the effort and cost of an upgrade. What are the things you need to look at? What are some of the big drivers, things that take more time? So we'll try and help with some ideas on, how do I get a box around this effort? And then the final one, which we'll schedule for early October, is around some of the mechanics. What are some of the best practices? What does this look like, actually doing an upgrade? Okay, I'm going to hand off to Paramish, who will take the next section on talking about the tools that are out there right now briefly. Paramish, to you.
Thank you, Jen. So if you think about upgrade to Dynamics 365 for operations, you are essentially talking about code upgrade for any of your customizations and database upgrade. In terms of code upgrade availability, there is a code upgrade service to help you bring forward existing custom code application to D365. The code upgrade service is available on LCS and very stable. The data upgrade process or tool that can bring your database and full transaction history forward is in preview. Data upgrade is done through a special type of deployable package. So if you would like to get an early visibility of data upgrade artifacts, you should join the Yammer group. Jen, if you can move on to the next slide. So here you can see the code upgrade option in LCS and the process. Once you have your AX 2012 model store uploaded and you start the analysis, the tool essentially converts metadata into the latest format and resolves some types of conflict issues while also re-baselining the metadata into the right model. The tool does help you in providing an effort estimation to understand how long it would take for your upgrade, for your solution to be upgraded.
Thanks, Paramish. Now we'll hand over to Joel, who will take us through our first point on why upgrade, cloud and cloud services that are now available.
Right. So one of the obvious major advantages we have with Dynamics 365 is the ability to deploy it in the cloud. And I just wanted to talk through a couple of the major benefits of the cloud deployments. First of all, there's an easier deployment model for your environments. So in the past, for 2012, all the different components had to be installed manually. when you go to cloud deployments, Microsoft is taking care of that deployment. You're just typing in some basic information about what kind of environment you need, and that deployment is happening, whether it's a one-box environment or a complicated environment such as a production environment. One of the other major benefits of cloud deployments is that Microsoft is helping manage certain activities as part of the cloud service that they offer. So they are managing the code deployments, which generally you have to do off hours, and so they're making sure that those happen successfully off hours. And then if you're doing kind of major application updates to your environment, maybe you're going from application version 7.1 to 7.2, they're helping manage that process and get the environments upgraded. So what that does for customers is it's less load on your IT staff after hours, and a lot of these tasks are after hours tasks, and so it's just nice to have somebody else dealing with that, where you might have a little after hours work, but hopefully not as much. Obviously, with the cloud comes all Microsoft's additional investments in infrastructure on the Azure stack and security as well. The other thing, if we look at the next slide, we'll see some of the additional benefits of being in the cloud is data connectivity with other cloud services. So when you're on-prem, it's maybe a little more complicated to hook into some of these other services, but when you're in the cloud, and with some of the new data management technology, it's much easier to get data flowing back and forth. And these are some of the services that we use in the cloud. So we have Microsoft Flow, which is for a super user to get some notifications and alerts and do some integrations for themselves. We have Logic Apps, which is similar to BizTalk, but it's a tool. It's a cloud tool that allows you to do data integrations between different environments. Power Apps is a tool to develop business applications, basically develop the user interface without having to have and they have a mechanism to deploy those user interfaces out to the users. The Common Data Service is available to have a central place to store data that needs to get used in a lot of different systems. So maybe I have a list of customers and I need to use it not only in my operations system but also my CRM system. The Common Data Service helps have a central repository for storing that information, and combined with Logic Apps and some other technology lets me pass the information back and forth. In addition, there's some things on the Azure stack that we kind of light up by being in the cloud, including the Cortana Intelligence and just some other general Azure functionality that we'll talk about a little bit when we get to the BI section. But Azure SQL and some other technology is lit up in the cloud, and we have access to use that as part of our Dynamics 365 enterprise architecture. So an example here of Microsoft Flow, this is just showing the fact that I have this tool that I can just log into using my normal credentials and see the flows that are available. I've got an example flow here. This is kind of a CRM type scenario, but basically it's a scenario where I'm taking information from Twitter and putting that into my CRM system and putting it into a mailing list finally. But those are some of the types of things just as a user, without having to have complicated integration logic built in. I just have access to some of this data where I can pass it back and forth. And I can also take inspiration or just use someone else's template for doing these types of scenarios. So whether it be operations to SharePoint or email scenarios, there's lots of different functionality that Flow gives for the super users to make their life easier, to automate business processes that they may be doing manually. So that's Flow. And then one of the other examples I gave is Logic Apps. So Logic Apps, again, this is for enterprise data integrations. So this logic app is letting me pull data out of operations and push it into another system. Again, the key point here is that I'm managing this online. I don't have to build out a bunch of infrastructure to be able to use these tools like Flow and Logic Apps and Power Apps. So I guess the bottom line is there's just a lot more infrastructure that's available as you go to the cloud, as you go to Azure. You know, Microsoft is making all these investments in different tools, and we just have an easier time taking on those tools and leveraging them for our internal processes.
Thanks, Joel. The next topic we want to cover on why upgrade is the UI changes that come with D365, especially the aspect of how does this change my supportability and what kind of experience am I giving my users. So first of all, with Dynamics 365, it's fully browser accessible, no more terminal server, no more Citrix to maintain, you know, have people logging in and out of. The ease of use of just jumping in a browser, hitting my favorites button, and being in Dynamics is a huge gain, both, again, for your IT staff as well as for your user community. So it's accessible on any device that has a web browser. The ongoing platform updates that we get monthly do help with the browser compatibility issues. We know those change fast, so that helps that quick turnaround on tweaking we need for compatibility. And then in addition, there's a mobile application platform that can be deployed. Microsoft has delivered some of those right out of the box, like for expense entry and timesheet entry, and others with that platform, depending on the complexity, you know, how far you want to go, you can take forms and deploy them to a mobile with a tool set and not be, you know, pure code. They are extensible, and that's where you do get into some of the more complex scenarios, but out of the gate, you can get a pretty good start just with the tools that are there. One of the other key things being on browser-based is now we're down to one set of UI design tools. It's not the rich client side, then the enterprise portal, which we can all now officially declare death of the enterprise portal when you move to Dynamics 365. And I know that probably none of us are going to lose any sleep over that. If you have large EP deployments, we know it's tough to code in, it's tough to support, performance can be hard to manage, and the UI experience just wasn't that great for folks. So we're into the new world now, much better UI and experience for our end users. A modern HTML5 look and feel. Again, I mentioned cross-platform support, anything with a browser. The old complicated role center has now been morphed into what we call workspaces, which have a much more clean look and feel. They have some levels of customization that truly can be done by the users. Other tasks in it are more a dev task, but it's a great way to deliver content to people and have that place where I'm then branching out and launching the different, you know, places within Dynamics. So that's a little bit on the UI. And then another tool I just wanted to call out that's kind of related to the UI topic is what we call task guides. And there was a little bit of this in 2012, but, you know, it was pretty cumbersome. This has all been redone in Dynamics 365. So I can use it just even, you know, if I just want to simply use it for documenting business processes, for training and UAT or conference room pilots, it's great for that. I can capture those screens, dump them out to Word or Visio. But above and beyond that, it can be used in my testing process. I can use it to verify test results. I can add extra validations through dev tools around that. If I'm using the business process modeler in LCS, Lifecycle Services, I can tag my recordings to those different business processes. So if someone's in there, they can just do that task recorder and it will take them through the steps in the system. So very good tool for a lot of different purposes there. Okay, let's just take a quick look at the application. I'll just take a couple minutes to give you a look and feel over some of those things that we just spoke about. So let's go into Dynamics. So I'm here on the main opening page. You can see we now have that nice, fresh, modern look and feel. Okay, let's go into one of the workspaces. I'm going to go into my project management workspace here. And you can see the different tiles or components that I can use. I've got my queue section over here. This has all been redone. Once I jump into a queue here, if I wanted to go into my projects or look at the timesheets that were assigned to me, I just click on that tile and I'm good to go. Okay, and I can incorporate different list pages. Here's my projects that I can see right away, and then just launch to the different forms within that project. Maybe I want to look at the WBS or just jump into my resources for that project quick. I can do that right from here. As well as we can use the Power BI embedded tools that Joel will talk a little bit more about at the end of the presentation. Those can be embedded right in here. Links, SSRS reports, jump out to Power BI. So out of the box, there's probably over 40 of these workspaces. ISVs are including them pretty much in all their solutions. You can create your own with dev tools, and there's a lot of still configuration aspects I can do as an end user myself on it. Okay, so a great, I think, way to really get out of that heavy, clunky role center and into a nice new look and feel. Let's just take a quick look on one of the screens here. I'll jump from my workspace here into one of the projects. And you can see much more modern look and feel. I've got the fast tabs here kind of have been updated. My fact box is over on the right. So nice, much more cleaner look and feel just on every screen throughout the system. Okay. What I used to have to do in the portal, in this case, let's say if I jump into my timesheets here. Okay. Open up a timesheet I've got started here. Much cleaner look and feel. We use Dynamics internally, and the first time I put my timesheet in this version versus doing it in 2012, it was just like, oh, this is so much more refreshing. This is so much easier to use. It just feels so much better. So I think your end users will really see that difference and feel that they're working in, really a modern solution that has a pleasant UI to it. Okay. And lastly, let's just take a quick look at that task recorder I mentioned. If I go up to the main menu here, I'm going to go over to my settings. And if I hit task recorder, this will queue me up. I'm going to create a recording. And let's just call it create a new customer. Okay. Now, I just hit start. And I'm going to go through the steps. I'm going to go here. I'm going to open up AR, all customers. Okay. Want to add a new customer, hit the new button, put it in a customer group. Must have used that one before. We'll just create a new one. And I can go through these steps, and then once I'm good, I just hit stop. Then I can save that to my PC. I can save it up to LCS, export it, and I'm good to go. And then once I go back to playing that, I can play that as a guide, edit it, clean it up, or do whatever I need to it. So great way for helping with different areas within the system, for finance, for training, UAT, and anything around that. Okay, that sums up kind of some of the key things around the UI, but overall, I mean, just think about the more, modern, easier to use, easier to maintain UI that you've now got with the new product. Okay, so let's talk about code management next. Paramish, handing off to you.
Thank you, Jen. If you can move to the next slide. So In terms of code management, I think extensions is one of the most talked about features in D365. And we all know the vast impact it has had within the dev community. So any customization that has overlay is intrusive customization, and that is not going to be supported. While it is true many of us are used to intrusive customization, it has also been one of the major obstacles to continuous upgrades. So you really have to think about customizations in a totally different mindset. D365 provides the extension framework to support all of your customization needs, and Microsoft has continuously enhanced the extension capabilities. It is true that you cannot achieve 100% non-intrusive customization now, but that is the goal by using some of the new extension features like support for additional enumerations, event handlers, and the latest new functionality on chain of commands. So you can also engage with Microsoft and open an extensively request, like in cases where you need to access, let's say, a private member variable. Microsoft will support you in such requests. So overall, I think extension-based customization has far greater benefits than the legacy approach of overlaying, including that of high-quality implementation. Jen, if you can move on to the next slide. So here you can see that Microsoft has completely revamped the metadata system that incorporates a new compiler and Visual Studio based development model. So the model store is kind of represented in a set of folders, and XML artifacts organized by model which I feel is a fantastic move. Joel, do you want to speak about the roadmap and the predictability releases?
Yes, thanks, Paramesh. So one of the things we get with Dynamics 365 is much better visibility and maybe honesty from the product teams about what's actually coming in the upcoming release. So on the roadmap.dynamics.com site, it's consistently being updated with what features are in development, what features just came out. And it's very helpful when you're trying to understand, features that you're looking for, whether or not they're actually, coming or likely coming in the next release. Of course, it's a roadmap site, so it's not 100% guaranteed, but at least we have a picture into what's happening. The other thing that Microsoft has done is to introduce somewhat predictable upgrade cadences. So in 2012, the CU updates and the R level updates, we just didn't really have a good insight into when those were going to happen until they got announced. And now in Dynamics 365, Microsoft is promising to have basically 2 releases a year in the spring and the fall. It's not as predictable as I'd like yet. They're not telling us the exact date it's going to happen, but it's still predictable enough that we can kind of plan around it. And then they have been very predictable in terms of the monthly platform releases to upgrade the base code of Dynamics 365. One of the other major improvements is a public ideas site, so anybody can log on to the ideas.dynamics.com and register requests for features. So it's nice to have an additional feedback. There may be feedback that doesn't quite qualify to the level of doing a support request, but we'd like to get it logged. There's voting on the site, so one of the most popular ideas is bringing back some of the alert functionality. So the community's voting, and this site is public, which helps. So if you're searching things and Googling things that you're looking for, features that you're looking for, because this site is public, you may find that someone else has already recorded the feature. And Microsoft is responding to these ideas, so you have some insight into, do they agree? Is it on their short-term, long-term roadmap? Where is this idea? So that's the roadmap and the ideas site. and this is just a screenshot of the roadmap site showing how you can filter by product, you can filter by module, and find out what's in development. So what all this adds up to is a better future upgradability story. So in Dynamics 2012 and prior versions, we did have kind of a pattern where, customers would go live on a version and basically stick with that for many, many years. And with the new technology and with more frequent release, there's more of a desire from customers, and there's more of a benefit to customers to continually keep your system upgraded. And it's not just, it's a benefit to customers to stay up to date because they get new features. It's a benefit to ISVs and Microsoft because if customers are more up to date, that's less versions that we have to support on our software. So there's lots of different reasons why we want to push this this upgradability story. The extensibility, as Paramesh mentioned, should help lower the cost of upgrading customizations. It won't make it zero. There's still, cases where Microsoft makes a change that can break an extension, but it does drastically lower, how hard it is to do those upgrades. And I talked about predictable release schedules, and ISVs hopefully can then plan around those, because one of the things that can slow down an upgrade is maybe you have 3 or 4 ISVs and one of them isn't ready yet on a certain version, then that slows down the whole process, or potentially can slow down the whole process. So the predictability hopefully will help the overall community to be able to stay up to date. And the roadmap can help you target your updates strategically. If there's a specific feature you're looking for, maybe you design your project plan around your upgrade so that you're able to take on that feature. So that's some of the code management tools. And then the other area that I wanted to talk about today was in BI and how that works. So I guess at a high level, it is a pretty drastic shift when you go to the cloud because you don't have access to the database anymore. So that's, I guess, there's a lot of good reasons for that, but it's a pretty drastic shift. I think the good things that have been done is there's technology to help, manage that. So there's technology around data management, and there's code technology around, defining how you want to extract your data that's much more manageable than it was before, because it just seamlessly combines with the rest of your Dynamics development. So obviously we've gone from more of a SQL, some of these SQL tools are still used, but the model's just changed, I guess, is the bottom line. How I extract the data and how I model the data, there's a lot of new updated tools to give me the capabilities to do that. So this is just a slide trying to explain some of that at the high level, what I mentioned. So to the left of this red line when you're in the cloud, there's a lot of stuff that Microsoft is managing in terms of your transactional database and replicating that database, and this thing called the entity store where you can do some data modeling for embedded Power BI experiences. And then there's other tools to get data outside that firewall where you can do transactional reporting in cubes and use that data for your BI tool of choice, whether it's Power BI or a third-party BI tool. So lots of new data management experiences. I think data management is one of the things that's changed the most from Dynamics, from AX 2012 to Dynamics 365. And one of the changes that they've made is that data management is basically, it's a centralized system in Dynamics 365, so there's one set of tools for data management. In 2012, you might have the data import-export framework and the application integration framework and the Excel add-in framework and other third-party frameworks. There was just lots of different, methods of getting at data. Well, those have all been centralized in Dynamics 365. So there's one core thing called data entities that is managing this whole data management process. So that's definitely helpful because your developers can become experts in this area and experts at getting data into and out of the system through one set of tools. Part of these tools is also modeling and populating data related to this Microsoft Entity Store so that I can bring Power BI experiences into Dynamics 365. If we move on to the next slide, we'll talk about the data management workspace. So this is, just kind of an example of what I'm talking about, where all these different functions of importing and exporting data or copying company, anything along those lines, Excel add-in, it's all been centralized into kind of one area, one technology stack that all works together. So one way to do things. And a couple options for Power BI, that's an important BI component. I'm sure even with 2012, a lot of companies are experimenting with getting data to powerbi.com. But with Dynamics 365, I've got a couple of options, including embedding it directly in the workspaces that Jen talked about, so that I can have my BI combined with my daily operational experiences inside the application. Microsoft has also, on many of their workspaces, provided Power BI content packs that are already prepared and ready to use. So you can just turn them on and populate the data and start using those experiences. And of course, we still have options around powerbi.com to create content packs, dashboards, mash up data between multiple systems. Lots of different options there for Power BI to tell a robust BI story across the enterprise. So that's BI. A lot of changes around data management. New BI functionality in the cloud adds up to some good changes and some welcome, pretty, dynamic reporting that wasn't always an option in AX 2012.
Thanks, Joel. And lastly, let's not forget the functional improvements that the new version brings. If we just take a quick feel across the system, there's incremental functional feature gains in all of the modules. I can't say gut level that, there's 5 new modules and this one has been totally rewritten. It's not that kind of level of change, but in some ways that's good because that makes that functional transition for your users a little bit easier. Sure, the UI is different, but, things are pretty much in the same modules. Menus, are kind of the same structure. It hasn't been, a totally way we do inventory or totally way, we do GL postings structures. So again, incremental improvements in each area. We've been through 4 application releases to date. Of course, the first version came out early February 2016, and we just had the most recent one here in July 2016, and the most recent one here in July 2017. Okay, but I think one of the things that has been an improvement around just, again, kind of Microsoft's approach on releases is the application features are all coming in one of these releases. We know that this is an application release. In the 2012 world, we get those incremental changes in so many different places. A major release, a feature pack, a cumulative update, all of a sudden, things broke because you didn't know there was feature releases coming in and people weren't ready for it. So much more organized, much more predictable. We have done a deep dive into the latest release and have a webinar on that. So just go to our website or click this link down here and you'll have our assessment of this latest release. But Microsoft has been much, again, more visible in what's in the releases. So what's new is all online now on this website, so you can hit that. and look at each version and go through the what's new and kind of get a sense of, oh yeah, maybe there is, some really, really meaningful improvements in this certain area I'm interested in. Okay. That sums up the core of our content we'll have, so appreciate you all joining. Again, just a quick note about sa.global. We are a full-service provider in the Dynamics channel. We are also an authorized Microsoft ISV Development Center, which gives us just that extra endorsement by Microsoft for quality, availability, and the depth of our resources. And we are always eager to work with customers, partners, and ISVs in any way we can, so just reach out to myself or Paramish if you have projects or questions or any way that we may be able to help you reach your goals with your customers and your products.